Welcome to day 237 of the 300 movie challenge. Today we watched the highest grossing film of February 2014, which was the Lego Movie.
Yay!
So apparently these two had already seen this before.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think this is like my fourth time watching it,
Oh
actually.
wow. Yeah, I had never seen it before, but like I'd heard it was really good, so it was like, in the far back of my mind is like, I guess I should see this, but now
Now
is
you
the
got
Yeah,
to.
now I got to. And at first, because I admit, and probably a lot of people thought this too, at the beginning, like, seems like, it's a silly idea, right? It doesn't mean it can't be
Yeah.
good, but it's a silly idea, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of how I felt it was at first. It was like, to me, this was like, at least for the most of the movie, felt kind of like Shrek 2, where it's that kind of, comedy, adventure, kind of action movie with, very quick, good writing with a lot of, like, random jokes that work pretty well and stuff like that, right?
And they're not outdated jokes.
No,
either.
yeah, and again, there's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of tiny things that are all everywhere, and so
Yeah.
because of that, I think I was thinking about, like, even though I compared it to Shrek 2, I'm like, I think I like this more than Shrek 2. Not like way more, but I liked it more, right? So I'm like, okay, this is, it's enjoyable, it's silly, it's good and stuff. And then there's the ending, or the climax or whatever, and I thought they might do something like what they did. In the basics, in terms of, like, I'm trying to be vague just in case of, like, spoilers for right now.
Right.
But again, I thought in terms of a basic sense, not like what actually is done with it. And I'm like, okay, they're going this route. All right, I saw it coming, but like it's still, kind of cool. Whatever. All right, fine. But what they did with it was actually like really touching.
Yeah.
And like way better than I thought it would be, and it kind of it completely changes your perspective on the whole movie.
Yeah.
So that the ending of this like bumped this up like way higher. Let me put it this way: I have this ranked above Avengers. So, and again, coming into this, I did not expect that at all. Like I thought I would like it, but like. And again, I liked it for most of the movie, but then that ending, it was just like, oh shit, that's like
Yeah.
really good.
I feel like that's most people when they first watch this movie and they don't know anything about it. It's like, okay, at the beginning it's like kind of silly. It doesn't really take itself seriously.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah,
And then you get to that one part and then
then-
you're just like, oh.
It even makes sense why, like, the whole story is told with Legos and everything too.
well, it also makes sense as to why
Yeah.
it seems so randomly silly,
Yeah.
right? It kind of everything makes sense, and it also puts things in a new perspective. That's like, at first you're like, oh, I get it, and then you're like, oh shit, I get it. You know what I mean? It's like it's a
Yeah.
double-edged kind of thing, and it's just like, oh, damn it, this is good.
A movie that once that you would want to see again and know.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's just,
That said, the effects for this thing were really good. Like,
well,
the
especially
fact
for what
that
it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they have fire Legos, they have water as like an effect as Legos, and that's
Yeah.
pretty funny. It's just seeing like all of these kind of interesting things. Like they had the smoke as Legos too, like all of that.
Mhm.
It's just so visually funny, but it makes sense why they had to do it like that.
Yeah. And then, like, with the random objects that appear and everything, too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, with the Craggle.
Yeah, and what was it, the Zacto blade or something?
Yeah.
Or what it was, yeah.
The Exact Zero blade,
That
and
was
then
it.
the Police of Nail.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And, yeah, and what was I was just gonna say? Oh, and now it makes me, because I, heard, for example, I know there's this kind of spawned a few other, like, Lego-styled movies, like there's the Lego Batman movie and stuff, right? So, I'm curious to see those too, and the second Lego movie is coming out, the sequel to this comes out, in about less than a month, I think, as of recording
Oh.
this. So hopefully it wins its month. Hee hee. Which honestly, it has a pretty damn good chance of doing that. So hopefully that we will be seeing this, the sequel to this. Well, from our perspective, kind of soon, actually. But hopefully,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we'll again, that's a complicated issue. We'll see how that works. But yeah, this was. Yeah, I don't really know what to say. Again, I don't want to spoil it just for right now, just for anyone who hasn't seen it. If you're maybe on the fence of like, it's kind of a silly concept. I know people say it's good, but yeah, go watch it. It surprised me, and it's not very long either. It's like a little bit more than an hour and a half. So even if it's not like you're wasting hours of your life to watch this, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. Is there anything else really to say before talking about, well, what actually happens in the ending?
I appreciate what they did with the characters.
Oh yeah.
Where it's kind of like, like Batman appears and everything, of which you have this certain mindset for him, but they kind of just go over the top with it.
Yeah. I mean, every character is like a kind of extreme stereotype, or it's a complete role reversal on a stereotype that still makes it feel kind of stereotypical. But again, it makes sense why that's the case.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah. I don't really know what to say besides just like kind of going into the whole ending thing with that. So
Yeah,
I
like,
guess
Non-spoiler is hard. Just
Yeah.
go watch it and don't listen to the spoiler.
yeah. Which now, spoiler alert.
yeah. So okay, I definitely was like, okay, they're gonna, especially when they mentioned what the man up high or
The man upstairs.
yeah, that I'm like, okay, there's gonna be some sort of real world thing with this. Like I knew like, okay, they're gonna do something like that. I thought it was just gonna be like a neat little thing where it's like they trying to be like, oh, it's God or whatever, and it's just like a dude playing with him or whatever. Like that's it. But it's like just like a reference or like a Deus Ex Machina or something that comes out of nowhere at the end. It's very briefly touched upon, and then that's it, right? That's what I thought they were gonna do. But then again, the whole thing when they turned it into like, this like creativity. Well, I mean, the whole thing in the movie itself is like creativity versus rules, and they turn that into like the whole conflict between the parent and the child, and it's like the issue with the parent and child like makes sense in terms of what's going on, and then you realize the whole story is the child basically like trying to express that, and it's like, and again, it explains all the kind of because to be fair, the story itself is fairly cliched and the characters are cliched, and it's like, well, of course it's a kid, he's not going to really know, right?
Yeah.
And he's making fun. That's why there's random characters thrown in here of everything, and they're doing their own stuff, and it's like it just makes everything make sense, and then it also the emotion behind it is like legitimately good in terms of feeling that. And again, it also makes you want to be like, oh, when you realize the whole like the micromanager things, it's like that's just his dad trying to fix things, and it's like
Yeah.
trying to like I want to like again I want to see this again with the mindset of like the kid making this story and really trying to think like what he's going through and that kind of stuff, and it's like that'd be super interesting now to rewatch this. So yeah, and then like then when they kind of had that moment of realization coming together, whatever, and like you could argue it is kind of cheesy and like with that, but it still works. Like cheesy doesn't necessarily mean bad, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it worked really well, and it changes something that was already a solid funny movie into something that's actually like profound. Feels like too strong of a word, but it's kind of in that
Meaningful?
yeah, I guess so.
Very meaningful.
Yeah. Which is, who would have guessed a fucking Lego movie would do that? It's just, but it also points to that, like, the people who made this, like, they clearly had a passion in what they were doing, because that's literally the point of the movie,
Yeah.
right? So,
Not only that, but it's kind of a thing where it's not, well, the entire movie is a product placement for Legos, but it's not just about Legos either. Because you can apply the concept to, like, anything, really.
Yeah.
yeah, it reminds me, well, like, the thing I could think of is, the whole, especially, I feel like this is usually kind of like a gender, like you can bring this up in like a gender stereotype kind of way, where you have like a kid who like a girl who wants to do like sports, or a guy who wants to do like, I don't know, dancing or something, like as a kid, right? And it's like the parents are like, oh, you shouldn't do this, you should stick to your role or whatever. And it's like kind of the same kind of idea here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's a very broad message that you can apply in many different ways. And yeah, that's just one example that I thought of right now, right? And I mean, I'm sure also there's the whole like, oh, yeah, you like to draw things, but like you can't make a living off of that, stuff like that, right? So it's again the
Or
same
even just
idea.
Yeah, or even just like inside like art, there's like structured art and just free expression art, because there are two different schools of thought with that too. So
Yeah.
I think this is a good movie just for everyone to watch. Like children can start to understand and question this concept of how far should I follow the rules, and then how much of my own self can I put into something.
Yeah, like to be an individual and
Yeah.
stuff. And it's
And
not
then
outright saying that like being part of a group is a bad thing either, because halfway through the movie he points
Yeah.
out the fact that it's fine to be like an individual and everything, but there are points where you have to work together also.
yeah.
And again, like
mean-
how things came in the end is when the kid and the father came together and started doing stuff with each other, right?
Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I do think this is like a legitimately like. It is a good movie for kids because it's it's fun and they'll be interested in it, but also like then again the message is. It's something that they probably so many people can relate to, especially kids, and like,
Yeah.
but it doesn't like beat you in the face with it, even though it is very prominent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting, and now if anything, kind of I'm really curious now, like what they're gonna do in terms of the second one. Like, are they gonna try to like bring a similar element into it? I kind of feel like the effect would almost be lessened if they just try to do it like this kind of thing again.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see what they do if they just kind of go all out in terms of, yeah, it's all in the Lego world, whatever, screw it, let's just make it ridiculous and funny. Like, that would still be a fine movie, right? I'm just
Yeah.
curious to see what their plan is. So, yeah. And again, the character, like, the stereotypes with that, they fill in that perfectly, and, any kind of, like, any sort of quirk with, like, the world or anything, it's pretty well explained. I also like, the whole, I'm trying to think, like, trying to kind of remember back to some stuff in the beginning and see if I can, like, think how it's related to stuff. Like,
Like with the construction site and
or,
everything.
well, okay, like, for example, the cap thingy, right? The special
yeah.
thingy, like, that was, in, like, a hole or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, did maybe he just, like, the father or whatever, like, accidentally dropped the cap in, like, a hole or whatever, and the kid found it and was like, oh, this is the thing that represents my dad's trying to fix stuff or whatever, and he, I'm just trying to think of it like that, right? And kind of
Yeah.
piece it together, and it'd be very interesting to kind of see this again with that mindset. So, yeah.
It's a good movie.
Yeah, it is. It's, again, I didn't expect that, so. Yay. Anything else either of you can add?
I'm just happy that I saw it again.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like I pretty much probably said like anything that you could say, but then again, since I'm the first person,
Yeah.
You only watched it just now. We watched
Yeah.
it a couple of times before.
yeah, so that's makes sense. Well, so I guess true story.
Yes. True
Okay.
story.
So story. It's not really a story. It's more of a thing that I was thinking of. So again, it's like, what the hell kind of thing could we talk about here, right? But I'm like, well, what are Legos made of?
Plastic?
Plastic.
Oh
Yeah.
So,
no. Oh no.
I'm not going to talk about like seagulls getting strangled by plastic, so don't worry about that.
Okay.
But I am going to talk about, of course, the ocean. A lot of plastic gets dumped into the ocean, and some of it does end up on animals and all this other crap. But a lot of it ends up being swept up in ocean currents,
Wait.
and a lot of it ends up being concentrated in one place.
Oh.
Oh, I know what you're talking
known
about.
as the Pacific Garbage Patch.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so, in case anyone doesn't know about this, this is a very, very large patch of plastic garbage that is in, well, the middle of the Pacific. And there's actually a couple kind of clumps of garbage patch in the ocean, but of course this is like the biggest one that's in the North Pacific. It's okay, yeah, so it's about halfway between California and Hawaii.
Oh dear.
And again, it's kind of vague like how big it is because it's, you know, it doesn't have like really defined boundaries.
Right.
But for example, that there's some estimations that say it's like over 1.5 million square kilometers.
Oh my god.
So, and then there's the density ranges though. It says here like up to like 100 kilograms per square kilometer, or
Oh
like
my
10
God.
kilograms per square kilometer. So,
And it's all like micro pieces.
well, it's a
too.
range, right? So it says here it can be up to 1.8 trillion pieces. 92% of the mass in the patch comes from objects larger than half a centimeter. So, again, that's not big, but like that's not microscopic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, so I've heard, of course, that this has, you know, shown up and has caused lots of problems in the area, of course. Now, I might be misremembering this, but I thought that I remembered seeing that the patch actually, the last time someone really looked at it, was actually a little bit smaller.
Okay.
Oh.
So maybe I'm wrong and that I just, you know, it's not what I'm thinking of. But I vaguely remember, at least, that there was some sort of thing about how it actually might be getting a little bit better. So if that's the
Always
case,
a good thing.
that's good. But I don't know. So maybe I could try to find that, and hopefully that's a correct statement. But maybe it's not. So anyway, don't throw your plastic in the sink or flush it down the toilet.
Or
Or just
avoid
yeah.
plastic straws, please.
Or just, you know, don't throw stuff into the ocean like a fucking maniac.
Or leave it on the beach.
Yeah.
Or just don't litter.
Yeah. Ugh.
Find a trash can, don't be a trash can.
Or a recycling bin.
Yeah.
That would be better.
Or turn the world into a garbage can. Don't become Wally, basically.
Yeah.
Or no, well, do be Wally, but to everyone else who's, you get what I mean.
Don't make the world into the world Wally has to
Yeah.
see and clean up.
Yeah.
Because we're not watching that movie, so we can reference it.
Yeah, which makes me
It's
sad.
sad.
I like Wally. But, what was I gonna say? Oh, okay, so we're currently, as of recording this, in the middle of the wonderful government shutdown.
Oh, yeah.
So, and part of the thing with that is that it is defined as a partial shutdown, which means that various things. One of them being that the national parks are not closed, but most of the staff are either A, not being paid, or B, not even, you know, they're not being told to work.
Yeah.
So, a lot of national parks are having a huge trouble with people just leaving trash fucking everywhere and not having people to clean it up. So, you goddamn trash mammals, clean up your shit, and, you know, don't expect the fucking wait staff to pick up the fucking garbage that you leave behind.
Yep.
You dirty apes. So there's my public service announcement. I mean, hopefully by the time this gets posted, there's not a government shutdown anymore. Because if that was the
That'd be
case,
But considering one of the announcements was that he was willing to go years.
yeah, well, okay, if that is how it was, then let's see, the shutdown will have gone for like 3.5 months. So, yeah, I think the Let's hope that's not the case. But then again, who knows when you have someone who is completely incompetent, inept, and is proselytizing over a complete non-issue. So, yeah.
It might be making a national emergency.
Over, again, a non-issue.
Let's build a tunnel instead, and have the Mexicans all come over.
No, well, again, even if... Okay, I'm gonna ignore the whole... Like,
wait, we should... We...
No, I gotta say this. This is important, because people don't know this. I'm gonna ignore the whole thing about, like, debate as to whether or not immigration is good. Okay, even ignoring that. Okay? Immigration is at a decade-long low.
Yeah,
There are way less people coming over. Like, for decades. It was so the whole thing about there's apparently an immigration crisis. Well, apparently it was a much bigger crisis, like for many years before that, and people didn't really do anything because notice, the country didn't go to complete shit when apparently there was so many more immigrants before. There's less now, so it's literally a non-issue. And people don't realize that because they think, everyone's talking about it, it must be an issue, and the debate is whether or not immigration is good. No, it's literally not an issue. There have been years also around this time, I don't know if it's true right now, but I know in the very recent past, just a few years ago, there were times when actually more people were leaving the US to Mexico than coming into the US from Mexico. There was a negative flow for Mexico. So even if the wall worked, which it wouldn't, but if it did and changed the flow to 0, you would actually make it worse because you would change it from a negative number to a 0.
Yeah.
So, okay, anyway. Lego movie.
That's too, China already tried the whole wall building thing. The Mongols still kind of came over.
Yeah, and...
Just saying.
And also, again, vast majority of illegal immigrants, they don't come over, they don't literally walk across the border, they overstay on work visas.
Yeah.
So, again, even if you really wanted to deal with that, you would do something else.
Let's build Legos.
Yes.
And call it a day.
Yes. See, you gotta be creative and take those building blocks that would have made the walls that divide us and make something creative like a spaceship.
Spaceship!
See, the real meaning behind this is that we need to give NASA more money.
We need more spaceships.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Give NASA money.
Oh, actually, I think Benny might be the first Lego man.
Is he? Oh yeah, I was wondering, because everyone else, it seemed like pretty obvious kind of what they were going for. Is he like a main character, or like, again, some very clear, like, the pirate or whatever, right? But I'm like, yeah, what is his thing? I'm not sure.
He probably is the first one, because, his helmet's broken, too.
No, I didn't
Yeah,
notice
you
that.
said 1980.
Yeah.
It's...
And, his dad is obviously, a little bit older than, 30-something, so... He could have been his first Lego. Aww! Aww.
Let's see, wait.
1980 Spaceman, they called him.
Lego Space is a Lego theme that features astronauts, spaceships, and extraterrestrial life. Originally introduced in 1978, it is one of the oldest and most expansive themes in Lego history and contains over 200 individual sets. Yeah, so I guess it was
So it was probably one of the earlier iterations.
One of the earliest iterations, and well, okay, not the earliest. There were other space themes before that, but it was one of the main big ones from a long time ago that ended up expanding into a ton of stuff later.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Well, now we know.
Yes.
I always wondered, actually, what exactly he was doing, but now I know.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, from there, we go on to... I forgot. What is it? Oh! Fuck!
I would rather get onto a spaceship.
Yeah,
No.
see? If this guy had a spaceship, it would have solved the problem really easily.
Or even just the pirate ship.
That's true. Oh my god, wait, what if we had the pirate dude as the main character of the next movie?
so much better.
It probably
That would have
be
made
so.
things infinitely times better.
I mean, the movie is not rated horribly, right? So it could be okay.
On that
Oh, fuck.
sad prayer,
We're doomed.
goodbye.
Not a prayer.
Humanity is doomed. Literally, ha. Okay.